Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Bennett and Mike are sitting down with Mr. Jeff Adamec, who is Green Beret extraordinaire. This guy is super secret squirrel club to the nth degree, and I love him so much, and I can't wait to have him on the show. So without further ado, Mr. Jeff Adamec, welcome.
Hey guys.
Wow.
I really love
all fucking night.
the Green Beret extraordinaire. Wow.
Yeah.
What an intro, right?
That is
Right?
an intro. That is something to. I mean, of all the accolades, of all the things.
Well, that's
Green
what
Beret,
That's what I
extraordinaire.
quickly realized. I think that we should frame up the audience that Eddie contacted you, and then you and Bennett have talked, and then you and I sat down and had lunch, and that wound up being a 2-hour-long conversation that
Well, because
went
now
into
you
it.
guys are beard buddies.
We are. We're
Yes.
beard buddies.
We are beard buddies.
I'd saddle
I
up
love
with
his
you
beard.
any day. So,
The friggin' Bennett's been worried that I'm going to take over as Michael's friend.
Absolutely not worried.
No.
maybe Dutch
You
Rudder
guys-
partner.
You should have seen the phone calls and the phone calls and text messages I got from both Bennett and Eddie after we did our 3.5 hour long phone call for my show that Changing Hearts and Minds that Michael Penny is going to be on. There was how big was the love fest? Oh, blah blah blah. You guys are perfect for one another. It was just such sophomoric, infantile shit that draws all of us to one another.
Felt like I was in fucking high school, bro.
Yep.
Oh
yep.
my
It
god.
was fantastic.
So how did you guys wind up getting engaged as far as on Change Your POV? You like my innuendos?
We started out with some light petting, and then I moved straight to getting on a knee and asking.
Light
So,
petting
what
on the
happened was,
beard.
Yeah.
Right.
It was about six or 7 months ago, and I had finished up with working through tech school or technical school for IT, and started working at Cisco after years of going to school for it. I had been invited back a few times to the school to speak at their career day stuff to some of their students, and being the person I am, and the fact that I've been an instructor for years, and I have a very good presence among crowds, I spoke with them a few times, and had a few of the people at Carolina Career College where I was going to school had told me that I was really good in front of people, inspiring them and getting them to do stuff, and that I should take more of my time to speak in front of people. And so I just started simply just going out there and saying that I was available to speak, motivational speaking and everything. And I come home from work one day, and there is a man named Eddie Lazary who that entire day had been trolling my Twitter account.
Oh, he's
Like,
a fucking troll, all right.
yeah, just popping up over and over again. And it happened that he was just on there looking at it again. And so I direct messaged him, and I'm like, hey, bro, who the fuck are you? Not so much in those words, but that was kind of the point I was trying to get across.
Why you all up in my shit, bro?
Yeah. And so he says, he points me to the website, and I check the website out, and he's like, hey, can I give you a call tomorrow? And I'm like, sure. And I spent an hour and a half on the phone with him. And although I knew what he was doing, and I knew that I was trying to get a spot to talk on his show, I didn't really realize that the talk that I was having with him was an pre-interview for the show. And so he's like, yeah, we'd love to have you on. And 2 weeks later, I was on. 2 weeks after that, I started texting with him and Bennett all the time. And then they had me on again for a Cisco event that I was going to be doing. I helped out with a bunch of stuff with them, doing a lot of promotion for that. And eventually, I just was like, you know what, these guys are doing the right thing. I like what they're doing, and being that I'm new to this, being a public face of the message that I'm sending. Instead of reinventing the entire wheel, why don't I just offer myself as a part of their already built escapade and just jump in on it, and it wasn't meant to be hey, let me jump on these guys' hard work and get in there, but it was more like these guys have already gone through all the crap that I would have to learn and go through, and they know what they're talking about. So let me see if I can just be a service to them while they're a service to me. And Bennett and Eddie were like, oh yeah. And like within an hour later, Eddie calls back because I got one better. Me and Bennett want you to have your own show. And that was it. Next thing I know, Bennett's telling me about Michael Penny, and I after listening to a couple of your guys' episodes together, I was like, this show's awesome, and it's a weekly staple of my podcast drive to work stuff. So that's how I got to where I am now.
That's fantastic. No, that's great. I love framing it up for listeners as far as the evolution into the adding value sector. So you spent...
Correct. That's just how shit happens, bro.
Right? It's the universe. Ambitious
so you
folks
you
find
gotta
each other.
put yourself out there a little bit from time to time.
Yeah, and it was true. The second I put myself out there, you guys responded, and
boom.
It's been nothing like to say it's been a whirlwind. I mean, I didn't go from being a nobody to everyone in the world knows who Jeff Adamec is, but I mean, the evolution of who knew Jeff Adamec was before, as opposed to who knows Jeff Adamec now, is probably been the equivalent of what somebody who's gone from rags to riches would feel like. It's been quite a bit of people I don't know are contacting me and asking me for my opinion and my help. And I'm like, bro, I can barely help myself sometimes, but yeah, sure, I'll help you. So no, it's been great though. And I'm really inspired a lot of times by the messages you guys sent out and how it is all about, not about me, check out what I did, but it's more about, let me help you make your life better.
Right.
By helping you avoid the pitfalls and the mistakes I've made. And not because you should avoid those pitfalls and mistakes, but because I got lucky to get out of those pitfalls and mistakes where most people don't. So let me help you not get stuck down in that quagmire that's going to lead to making you a statistic.
Right. What do you call that, Michael Penny?
Adding value?
Yeah, baby.
Hell yes, in a huge way. Well, it's something especially to where, it's like any other evolution in the military. Hey, you didn't wind up just like waking up one day Green Beret. I'm pretty sure there's a selection process, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. There's quite a
bit.
And had you told Jeff Adamec getting out of high school that he was going to be a Green Beret, he'd have laughed in your face and went back to his friggin' Xbox. I mean, that's the truth. Because the getting to be a Green Beret for me was more of a journey of self-confidence than a journey of achievement, if that makes any kind of sense.
Well, what do you always say, Jeff? So the special operations guy, what is the differentiator between us as special operations guys and normal soldiers?
We don't know how to quit, or we don't use quit as a reason for anything. Right. Quit is not it's a word in our vocabulary, but it's a dirty word. It's the dirtiest word. It's the equivalent to saying GD if you were a priest.
Right.
It's that offensive to us. Quit. I mean, quit is something that's a reality, but it's something that we just don't allow.
Like, and it's totally attached with, like, the boogeyman is attached to that shit. Like,
right. And it's not because we're better than anyone else, but we just know that we know much better than anyone else that quitting is it's like taking crack for the first time. It may seem like a good idea that moment, but when you're doing it over and over again for the rest of your life, it then becomes something that your life gets defined by. It gets too easy. The second that it's easy to quit, you've made major mistakes.
There's a huge nugget of wisdom in the fact that you can habitually become a quitter.
Oh yeah.
You really can do that. It really, I think sometimes to folks, like, I know that I've definitely quit things that are not a good fit in different circumstances. Not like, hey, this is too tough and I'm going to flop in the ditch and
quitting like that is a different animal.
Right.
Yeah, that's not the same kind of quit. You're not quitting because it's too hard. You're quitting because it's not what you want, because or not going down the road you want to.
Right.
But the quitting I'm talking about is quitting because something's too difficult. It's only as difficult as you make it. And if you make quitting an option, then quitting is going to be an easy option to take.
Right. Especially in times of induced stress, which were my favorite times, like throwing RD sims at people.
Dude, one of the worst times of stress. Like, it's really, just to put it forward, like the kind of quit that Jeff is talking about is like, getting thrown in the pool. Mike and I talk about this quite a bit. Is that the greatest equalizer in the planet that I've ever come up with is fucking water. And so you take 27 guys and throw them in a pool and say tread water for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, 10 minutes in boots and utilities, and BDUs and freaking boots. And then 5 minutes into it, you see 4 or 5 guys jump in with fins and masks on, and then they start taking motherfuckers to the bottom. That's a fucking mind fuck.
Yes.
That's the kind of quit you're talking about. Not the kind of, it's like, I don't want to run 3 miles or whatever. That's the type of shit. Like, if you want to get to the end of this, you just suck it up for the next 5 fucking minutes.
Right. But I'll even take it a step further that I don't want to run 3 miles. That's where that quit gets its birth from. Cause when you start doing the whole, I use this, and I use it with my kids especially, and then that's really where my inability to quit comes from is because I want to be an example to my son and my daughter, that if you say you're going to do something, if you commit yourself to a task, then you owe it not to the people around you, not to the people you're trying to impress, but to yourself, to the person that you're going to look at in the mirror 30 years from now, and you're going to have regrets and everyone has regrets. Everyone does. And the biggest tragedy in the world is regret, because you can't go back and change it. But when you only regret the things that deep down inside you could have affected, because you cannot regret. We don't sit around and regret 9/11 as soldiers, because there's nothing you could have done about it. It was a tragedy that happened. But what do you regret? I regret not playing football my senior year of high school. I regret not asking that girl out on a date. I regret quitting selection. These are the regrets that you really do regret, because it's you that had everything to do with the fact that it didn't occur. And so if it's something that you alone have control over, then quitting should never be done as a form of trying to seek out the easy way, because it doesn't do anything but lead you to a life that you're going to look back on and wish that you hadn't done it. People say it all the time. I don't regret the things I've done. I only regret the things I failed to do. And I think that we learn too late in life sometimes that that's the case. And I just got really lucky that I learned early on in life that I needed to be able to look at my son and my daughter at some point in my life and say to them, if you say you're going to do something, then do what you say you're going to do. But don't ever make a promise to yourself or to anyone else that you have no intention of following through on, or on anything that you're going to allow quit to be an option on, because you're always going to take quit if you let it be an option.
Right. So let's make this a really awesome interview. Michael Penny, biggest regret in life.
Ooh. Oh, biggest regret. So now I got to go back to a deciding factor.
Yeah, let's get real. Let's get fucking real with this mojo.
I mean, it's one of those things where I definitely could have changed, and with a hell of a lot more foresight, if I knew what I knew now, then kind of a thing.
Yeah, but 2020, hindsight's always 2020, but yet whatever.
It's my past too. It's too easy It's too easy for a guy like me who's had to deal with, an ex-wife the way that I have to point at that. I love the shit out of the children that I had out of that relationship, so I definitely don't regret getting married the first go around. Wow. I think my biggest regret definitely falls within, I regret reaching back out of my past in order to accomplish missions now. And I will say my biggest regret was ruining a relationship that I had with my first business partner because it was something where we needed to talk about what the divorce would look like up front and whether or not both of us were 100% committed to the mission moving forward. And I was taking him, I don't want to say taking him for a ride, but he was along for the ride and not really sure whether or not entrepreneurship was the right route, and I was selling them on it. And I regret doing that because it ruined our friendship. It really did. And I mean, this is a guy where, dude, he was in my wedding.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I
do.
I wish that friend was still there. I really, really do. So yeah. So there's mine.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go with mine next. And then Jeff, if you're game.
Oh, I'm always game.
Okay. So mine, truthfully, unequivocally, is getting out in 2003. Getting out for the second time. Hindsight 2020, as we say. But that was like game day. And I kind of how do I explain it? I guess I overthought it, and I got out because I got out for good reasons, but I kind of didn't think of myself, and that's something that I think a lot of guys, especially in our positions and guys that have served in the military and guys that, have a selfless type of heart, kind of don't necessarily think of themselves. And I didn't think that I would regret getting out for the rest of my life in 2003, but I do. Because I let a, squad of guys go to war that I had trained and that I had, been there as their leader and all that other shit. And some of them didn't come home, period. And I have to live with that the rest of my life. Whereas if I had gone, would they have come home? I don't know. Would I have come home? I don't know. But that's something that I have to live with as a regret, is not going to war with those guys that, I had been there with for two plus years. And what else do we do in the military but train to freaking go to game time? You know what I mean? So that, to me, truly in my life is the biggest regret, is getting out in 2003 because of those reasons.
Nice. Well, I think I can honestly say that I don't have one that stands out above the others. I'll have maybe 3 or 4, because I think everyone generally does. So you just hope that you don't have a regret that's one that you can't get, let go of. Thankfully, mine are able to be let go of, but there are still multiple that fall into that realm. So you both have kind of hit on something that was separate, and I have ones that are like that. But I'll go to the third one that I have, my 3 that I always use, and it's a little bit along the line of the relationship stuff. So I'm lucky enough to have the only woman that I've ever been married to, the same woman that I was married to as a private, I'm still married to now. So I'm one of the lucky few who has that. But what I do regret is there were times, and thank God they didn't end up being, relationship ending, but there were times where she came second to other things in my life. And even though we worked through it and were able to get past that, I do to this day still regret ever putting her second to anything else.
Yeah.
Because it did put strain, and it did put unneeded issues into the relationship that ended up having to be worked through, or in this case, maybe just looked past and forgotten by the forgive and not forget kind of thing that I'm sure goes on. And the thing that sucks about the regret when you talk about this was she was placed second, but she wasn't second. You know what I mean? Like it was the way that I made her feel,
right,
rather than what was actually the reality of the situation. And that, again, regret was totally within my control. Right. And so that's the regret I have the most. And like I said, it's not something that I have to beat myself up too much about. I'm still married to the same wonderful woman I've always been married to, and thank God. But it could have been one of those things where I could have really run my relationship, my marriage into the dirt, and she just happened to be, being that she's much more patient than I am, she was able to move past those moments, and even to the point where she's helped me move past them by not making them be something that I have to beat myself up for all the time.
Right. Awesome.
Now that's positive, especially in if you hear it, you can hear some of the lessons learned that are coming out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have...
Yeah.
There are things that you can get mad at yourself over where, like, I learned my goddamn lesson. You analyze the situation. You know what I mean? You're like,
Yes. Yeah.
God damn, like, that was so stupid. What the hell? What the hell was I even thinking at that moment in time? And how do I put it? I don't say that I get in moods, but there are certain things where it gets stuck in my craw. And I'll be chewing on some other problem or issue that does not pertain to my family. And I have to, like, physically, conscientiously say, this has nothing to do with them, and somehow kind of shunt that and just take a deep breath and go and hang out with the family. But, like...
Right.
You know, the immediate regrets that especially come out of doing entrepreneurship and anybody who's just mission goal oriented, any of these other things, of course, what it boils down to is balance and time management. And some of the regrets that I currently have just in my current role are like, this is weird, but, and a little funny. I can honestly say that sometimes it's just boring as shit playing with my kids. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
It is.
There's nothing wrong with saying that. It's true. I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff that's, I mean, it's called childish for a reason. You know, we're adults, and some of the stuff they do is just like, oh my God, over and over again. But hopefully, like where I think you're going with this is that you realize the benefit to them long term. For me, just taking that moment to spend time with them, regardless of how, you know, boring it is or how tedious it is, pays so much dividends. And it comes down to that whole, you know, we're willing to suffer massive amounts of physical pain on the body, you know, exhaustion and all this other stuff. But then, and I see it too many times in military guys but they will not suffer the time of monotony with their families, yet and here's where they go wrong with that. Is your family sees the amount of dedication and drive you have to accomplish stuff, but then you won't take 5 minutes sometimes to do something with them that they think is, well, if he's so dedicated and so motivated to do all these things, but yet will not suffer the 15 minutes of playing Barbie with his daughter, where do we fall on his totem pole of importance? Right. And I think that guys don't mean that. We don't mean it when we do that. We think that our family is the one outlet we have where we can be ourselves and not have to worry about putting forth this motivational leadership that we put out to the rest of the world. But we make the mistake of not realizing that to them, our time is just as important, if not more, than every other aspect and every other endeavor we take on in life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something where I personally struggle with that on a daily basis. I mean, I have 2 older children that live up in Michigan with their mom, but then I've got my 2 children that are here, and it's always this constant, where am I putting time toward the mission? How much is going here? All of these other different things. And it almost feels like you're in deployment mode, and then you shut the door in the office, and then, hey, now all of a sudden you're here. You know, it's weird in how you almost hit this combat operational tempo where you're going through it, and then it's like the kid wants to play in the backyard, and you're going, I'm either too tired, or I don't necessarily want to do that, or something along those lines. But it's one of those things where it's like, I regret the fact that sometimes I have to tell myself, just grit your teeth and do it, because it will be for the benefit in the long term. I want to enjoy that. And it's
yes.
And it's weird. It's psychologically defeating, because it's like, nah, man, you're just not down with watching Little Einsteins for the 15th, 100 millionth time in a row. You know what I'm saying? Just it's fine. Just sit on the couch with your kid. People. I'm always very self-conscious of like how much time am I spending looking at my phone? Well, my 3-year-old is. Watching Little Einsteins, we're snuggling on the couch. It's cool. I can look at my phone at this point, but I can't like sit down with my laptop and do emails. There's all of these different little boundary games that you're playing so that you're, yes, I'm here and we're spending time and I'm adding value, but also I've got to answer this text message with Bennett because we've got Jeff Adamec that's coming on the show. You know?
Right.
It's like, how do we stretch our time in order to make this happen?
Well, I think those things is we beat ourselves up on those things because those mental blocks that are placed on us, like you're saying, oh, I'm sitting here, but am I spending quality time when I'm on my phone? We're doing that to ourselves. Our wives, and we all know it, and every single person who's ever been married to a military wife or a wife who is married to a man who was military, they have no problem telling us what they want and what their problems are, at all. They will. They know the kind of men we are. They know that they need to speak to us directly and earnestly and without any kind of, and we play our, believe it, guys. Military men and military women in their relationships have just as many mind games that go on between husband and wife as any other relationship. But we have the one disadvantage of when push comes to shove, there's not going to be any hints laid down anymore. It's going to be like, hey, motherfucker, I want you to do A, B, and C. And so that is a benefit we have, but we just sometimes wish it would come to us a little bit sooner. I tell people a lot of times at work when they're trying to drop hints, I'm like, listen, there's one person in the entire world that I give exception to and I allow to drop hints. That person isn't allowed to drop hints that I'll respond to. They're just allowed to drop hints. You're not that person. That person is my wife. So unless you all of a sudden become my wife, stop beating around the bush and tell me what the fuck you want from me and stop friggin' telling me shit in code because I can pick up what you're laying down, but I ain't friggin' playing that music right now.
Right. No, it's funny. A lot of regrets have to do with time. It's timing, or it's time management, or it's could have done there, could have done that. And I get it. It's a decision-making process, and I understand. But it's always, of course, regrets are wrapped up in decision. But it's, I mean, this was my mantra in the whole adding value. This was the I hate and hesitate using the term rise from the ashes by any means, but it was just like, how the hell am I going to get through this turmoil kind of a deal? And adding value is the decision that I can make. So like, okay, if it comes between the lesser of two evils, which one adds the most value? And
right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, well, you could argue that working on the business makes you more money, and then you could potentially give a more valuable experience to your children. But I mean, we aren't paupers. It's not like we have to walk to the river in order to get our water or anything like that. Life is pretty damn good. So really, where are we adding the value that's necessary? And that's where I started to, I value certain things like relationships. I value them probably the most out of anything that I value in the world is relationships. I don't want to have shitty relationships and terrible experiences with god-awful people, right? Why would I want that? So, I mean, it's funny. I had no idea that Bennett was going to pose the question, what is your biggest regret? But it's funny because really, I think everybody's biggest regrets have to do with relationships.
That's the point of it. It's whether it's a relationship with an individual that you care about, or a relationship that was destroyed because of your reaction to another individual, or basically the worst one, which is your relationship with yourself. Because the one people we have no problem. We decide whether we forgive people for things that have been wrong. But you've heard psychologist after psychologist say that most people who have severe mental blocks or severe mental issues that are long term generally comes down to their inability to forgive themselves for things. And because we hold ourselves accountable to ourselves. And if you cannot get past the fact that you betrayed your own morals and your own, then that's normally where it comes from. Is like, I did this even though I knew it was wrong. Yep. Or I did this because I just didn't care enough to give a shit about right or wrong. And then you get older, you get wiser, and you look back and you go, my God, why did I do that? And you can't. So we spend all our time asking people, why do you do this? When trying to mentor people through things or leadership our way through somebody with an issue, we're like, well, why did you do that? But when you look at yourself in the mirror and you ask yourself, why did you do that? And there is no good answer. then how can you possibly get to the point of forgiving yourself to be able to move on when you can't even get an answer out of yourself? The one person that you're supposed to be honest with above all others, and you realize that you're either lying to yourself or you have no answer, and you're the kind of person who bases everything off of cause and effect, as most military-minded people do. If I can't find a reason why I did it, or I know that I'm lying to myself about why I did it, then I can't forgive myself. And so you end up not forgiving yourself, and the regret never goes away. And that's where the regret really comes from, is an inability to forgive yourself for something that you've done wrong, or someone that you've done wrong.
Trust, gratitude, and forgiveness. Those are the messages that I always put forward to everyone. And if you can do that, trust, especially yourself. And Penny's heard me talk about this until I'm, blue in the face, and so is he. If you can trust yourself, have gratitude for what you have, and forgive yourself for what you've done that you perceive as wrong, then life is easy after that, frankly. And that's kind of what I'm getting at this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Trust, gratitude, and forgiveness. It's simple, but not easy, period.
No, definitely not easy.
But definitely a simple concept. Trusting yourself, trusting others around you, having gratitude in what's given to you in your life, and then forgiving yourself and others around you for the transgressions that you've had or things that you've done bad. It's pretty freeing, bro. There's no other way to describe it.
No, it's absolutely freeing, and it's something. I tell people a lot of times that you're never handed baggage that you can't carry, but yet why carry around baggage that's so weighted? Because it weighs you down. It weighs you down, and it makes Chris Rock really weird. But Chris Rock has a stand-up performance where he talks about how life is short. Life is short. People say do things you want to do because life is short. He goes, but yet make a bad decision and life can be very long, and it can be long, so long that it's overbearing. And it's meant to be a joke, and it's funny when he puts it out there. But when you break it down and you take the comedy out of it, it really is an eye-opening statement that yes, you only live once. Life is short. Live your life, but pay heed, because a bad decision can make your life feel very, very long.
Coming out of that, Chris Rock with that moment of levity and the comedy associated with it, and how you can really break it all the way down to making a bad decision, can lead to a lifetime of, it's almost like mental slavery. Because this is my whole premise with add value, right? If you only aimed to add value at that moment in time, and it doesn't need to be for the greater good or for you or for an individual, your values have to correlate thereof, but you're adding value to the overall situation, which means effectively you're doing good, or you're attempting to do good. Now, keep in mind that the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So, it's one of those things to where you're always lost within the catch-22. However, if I'm one of these guys where I'm lucky, I don't deal with moral injury. Thank God. All of the decisions that I had to make were there are some that were very, very difficult. However, they were all made with the intent and purpose of add value to the overall objective, which then adds value to the overall mission.
Right.
It wasn't just, let's do some willy-nilly cowboy shit. Like, how does this add value to the overall objective?
Uh-huh.
Corporal, why and nobody ever asked me this, but I know that they were thinking it, which is why I always told them why we were still sitting in this cordon. Because this position, albeit our gunner can only see one other truck, we happen to be the southwestern position in this fucking cordon. So if we collapse, everybody inside of the cordon fucking dies. Understand why you're so valuable now? So let's just sit here, baking in the sun. But at least we're adding value.
Yeah. No, like one of the things that it's one of the lessons that I always taught to my soldiers. And then I teach to my kids now is like when they're getting ready to make a decision that's I perceive as incorrect, right? I always look at them and I go, you can do whatever you want as long as you realize that you have to face the consequences of that decision. You can do whatever you want, but you can go out there and kill somebody. You can go out there and steal a car. You can go out there and do some really fucked up shit, but you have to face consequences for that, but that literally goes for everything in life. So if you're able to face the consequences for your decisions, go right ahead and do it. But that doesn't mean it's the right decision. You know what I mean? That's one of my lessons that I've learned the hard way in life.
I think we were all saying the same thing, but I always tell my kids to make sure that they own everything they do.
Yeah.
And sure. my thing with that is like, well, and it only because I hear what you're saying, but I think I can foresee in my head, me and my son, because he's a really intelligent kid. I see me and him having this conversation and him being like, well, what if the consequences never catch up to me, Dad? And I'm like, well, that's irrelevant. Just take responsibility and own everything you do. I'm not saying that if you do something that's wrong, you should go out and squeal on yourself so that you can face the consequences. But if the whole, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, if you get caught, you're not trying hard enough thing.
Right.
I'm like, I tell him, I said, look, do what you're going to do and what you feel that is necessary, but make sure that you own what you've done and that you take responsibility for. And, because the worst thing in the world is seeing these people who, and we all know them, everyone's seen them, these people who cannot ever own what they do.
But
everything
it's also,
is always
Jeff,
somebody else's problem.
We also put it forward that you also know the difference between right and wrong.
Right.
Because I've taught you that.
Right.
So.
And I expect you to make good decisions. I'm not going to beat you up or disown you for making a bad decision as long as you own that you made that decision.
Right.
Ranger school teaches everyone that, there's, it's a big whole, what are you going to do, PL? What are you going to do? And they're yelling, throwing Nardi Sims. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And bottom line is it's trying to teach guys to make a decision, because the lack in an emergency situation, making a poor decision is better than making none, because making no decision leaves people who are looking to you for guidance with, what do we do now? What do we do now? All right, we're going to do this. I don't have time to mull it over. We're going to do this. And if it's wrong, it's the wrong decision and I will own it. But I made a decision. I moved forward. I led from the front and I made a decision for the group or for myself that is going to move me in a direction that's moving me forward, never backwards or sidestepping the problem. It's always, I got to move directly into it, face it head on, take it as it comes. If it hits me on the chin, fine. If while I'm in there I can get that dodge and counter, great. But bottom line is I own what I do and I make decisions that are timely, effective, and final.
Right.
Loving it.
So Jeff, tell us what you got going on right now, man.
Well, I know. The Giants just had their draft. New York Giants just had a draft. So, are you talking about what am I going on in my life? I thought you meant this weekend. Okay.
Smart ass.
What I got going on now is we're about to kick off Changing Hearts and Minds on the Change Your POV podcast network. I've been working on it with Eddie Lazary and this man Bennett Tanton for about a month and a half, getting everything set up. I've gotten about 3 or 4 episodes working through getting edited. One of those episodes has Michael J. Penny in it. I have that. Yes, not done. I have that going on. I also I do a lot of blogging and article writing. Some of it on Change Your POV. Some of it on my LinkedIn. I'll throw out stuff that's on IT out there. I do work right now for Cisco, and I do a lot of going out and talking to people, generally new veterans that are getting out, that are stuck inside this feeling of, what now? My big thing, my big push, or my piece of the struggle that we all have right now is showing these guys that the military spent a lot of time teaching you guys leadership, teaching you guys how to do things the right way, and you get out and now you think that your entire life is turned upside down because you're no longer a soldier. But what is it about being a soldier that everyone loved? It's about being a warrior. Everyone loved being a warrior. That's what we were driven for. That's what some of us, and I think you guys fall into this. There's guys like us who feel like that's what we were born to do.
Right.
That's why we were put on earth. I'm here to be a warrior. So I get my uniform taken away from me because I get out, and all of a sudden now I don't know what to do anymore. But being a warrior has nothing to do with your uniform. Living your life as a warrior is a mindset and a way you live your life. It's not a job title that you have. So my thing is I go out and I talk to these guys about finding that warrior that's still inside of them and, refocusing it on a new mission and getting out there and living their lives the way that warriors live their lives, and to stop digging themselves into a hole of despair and a hole of what now, what next. Find a new objective, find a new enemy, and get after it. And that's what I do. I'll be speaking. I've done a lot of speaking recently at events that are run by Cisco and by other IT organizations about getting guys, into the IT field and getting guys into the employment. I'll be speaking in August at Fayetteville State University in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple other speaking engagements that are in the works popping up, and basically with that, and then just all my efforts into trying to help Bennett, Eddie get stuff done. And the big thing is Memorial Day weekend's coming up, and Change Your POV is going to be having a book come out on changing your point of view on Memorial Day, which is a book written in tweet format of all these different tweets that have to do with the veterans and people who are close to veterans, people like Andrew, as we all know Andrew. He's a member of this group that's writing this book too. Their views on Memorial Day and what Memorial Day means to veterans, and what we want others to see how we see Memorial Day. As yes, it is a day for hot dogs and baseball games, but it's so much more to us, and it's also not as much to us as some people would think. So it's both ends of it. It's a serious day, but it's also a day that is spent in my opinion exactly the way it should be. Living as Americans, free and clear of tyranny and oppression and all that other stuff, and do not take the tragedy of people who have laid down their lives and make it forget why we're Americans ultimately.
Right. Use it as a gift.
I love it.
True story.
Hell yes. That's awesome, dude. Do you have any takeaway links just in kind of wrapping things up?
Takeaway links?
Yeah. Do you have any links to your show or anything else that you're doing? Any speaking engagements that you might be coming up to, where folks could find you, anything like that?
Yes, I do. Folks can find me on LinkedIn under Jeffrey, Jeffrey, Adamec, Adamec. You can also find me on Twitter at JEFF_ADAMEC. And I am also on Facebook at Jeff Adamec. You'll be able to find my public site there. That is the one that is connected to Change Your POV podcast. You can also go to changeyourpov.com. On changeyourpov.com, you'll be able to find me under Changing Hearts and Minds podcast. Under the About section, if you scroll down, you will see the beautiful colored professional photos of all the hosts of the show. If you find the one guy in there who's in a black and white photo looking like he just got done being filmed for the men's men among men, bearded gentlemen with backwards hats kicking ass, the one guy that doesn't fit with all the other pictures, that's Jeff Adamec, because it was just perfect that they took the Green Beret, who we were noted for not wanting to stand up and do everything else everyone else is doing, and they picked the one photo of me that completely stands me out from everybody else on that.
And it just shows that he totally has his hands in his pockets.
Oh no, I do. I have my hands totally in my pockets in that photo.
So
I have my hands in my pockets right now.
Basically, it's the big another one that it's changeyourpov.com/changing hearts and minds. That's an easy one to find there.
Yes.
So the easiest one really is Jeff Adamec at Facebook.
Just Google that shit, people.
Yeah,
Google that shit. He pops right up.
Yeah, I do. I pop right up because I'm a Green Beret, and we keep ourselves secret and hidden from everyone. That's why you can Google my name and I pop up on like 40 different sites.
Good job. Swiss Silent Deadly, shit like that. Yeah.
That's right.
That's recon. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Can't let you steal that one.
Fucking.
Anyway.
I didn't know you guys knew how to spell Swift.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
walked right into it. You did.
Zinged right into it.
Super secret swirl club.
That's right.
You can't even spell reconnaissance, dumbass.
I can't. I gotta autocorrect that shit.
Right. Yeah, true that.
I really do. Every time
I beat that shit into us. They used to beat that shit into us so we wouldn't look like total dumbasses.
On how to spell reconnaissance.
Can you even fucking spell reconnaissance, dumbass?
They should have beat you guys a lot more, I'll tell you.
Yes, for real.
Changing hearts and minds, people. That's what we're doing here.
Yes, sir. Changing hearts and minds, just real quick. Changing hearts and minds is a play on words of the SF motto of we go into countries as Green Berets and we change the hearts and minds of the local populace. Or we win the hearts and minds of the local populace to see our way and fight our war. So, changing hearts and minds, being that I'm working for the Changing Your POV podcast, it's not just winning the hearts and minds, but it's changing the hearts and minds like we're changing your POV, and that's where I came up with that. Although I will say that it is not as cool as headspace and timing, and I know it's not that cool because Bennett refuses to stop saying how cool that name is.
It really is cool.
It is cool. I
can't lie. It's fucking cool.
It is fucking cool. It is cool. But I do get sick of hearing you telling everyone how cool
it is.
God damn
it, it's fucking
changing hearts and minds, damn it.
Up.
Changing hearts and minds. No. Headspace and timing. Fuck off.
2 clicks back for heat and expansion. That's all that I think of whenever I hear headspace and timing. 2 clicks back for heat and expansion. That's all
you need, I've found it. The go no go gauge works. Now I'm gonna 2 clicks off for heat and expansion. And
there you go.
Rock it like a friggin' hurricane, man.
Hell yeah. If you don't know what the hell we're talking about, somebody cheated you.
You're just fucking wow.
You didn't pass the test. You have a beard, but if you don't know what headspace and timing is, throwback to the beard episode, then you're obviously suspect.
Then you're just wrong.
There you go.
What did Bennett say? You're lumber sexual?
Lumber sexual.
You've never fell a tree?
That's right.
Hell yeah. Those are the guys I hand a dull axe.
You're not an arborist.
I hand those guys a dull axe and I lead them up to a cedar tree. And I go, all right, boys, we'll see you in a couple hours. See if you can fell that motherfucker. It's going to be like hitting iron.
Those are the same people who do have their vocabulary. You'll see them in like 15 minutes, and they'll have themselves a cappuccino and a vape pen. So don't worry about it.
That's a nice flannel and beard you've got there, buddy.
What, do you listen to Social Distortion in between your vaping?
Right. Fucking tool bags.
Fucking tool bags.
What do you got a problem with Social D for? See, now we're talking about a whole nother episode.
I just hate Social D when it's associated with a flannel bearded guy with a vape pen and a friggin' high and tight friggin' comb over.
and a dull axe.
Dull axe.
Oh fuck. I love my job. Well, folks, that's why you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Time now. And if we didn't change your hearts and minds, it's probably not going to change anytime soon. Go ahead, write down your major regrets. See if it boils down to relationship building. You're going to hear more from Mr. Jeff Adamec and his awesome Green Beret stories, of which he has plenty. And if you haven't already done so... Green Beret Extraordinaire. He basically goes around and does the pre-combat power stance wherever he goes. People don't know what the fuck he's doing, but they also don't realize he's Green Beret Extraordinaire.
People don't understand why I combat roll every 3 to 5 seconds on my way into work in the morning, just to keep myself sharp.
Jeff's out there doing the sneaky ninja again. The fuck is wrong with that guy? Bound in cover behind pickup trucks, because he knows that they provide larger cover behind the axle. Anyway, I am a nerd for gun battles. Folks, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Cigars and Sea Stories. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Heroes Media Group. You guys rock. Veteran-focused media group. We are proud to be members of. Also, Spartan Media for making a kick-ass website and veteranslist.us Folks, if you haven't already registered on veteranslist.us or checked it out, you totally should. These are veteran-owned businesses. They've been vetted. And if you're a veteran-owned business and you'd like to get on there with a featured membership, you can do so for 50% off. That's half off by entering in discount code Cigars and Sea. So go ahead and do that. Well, gents, I love both your bodies equally in different forms. I would be the crazy in that H if you catch my drift. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
True story.
Jeff, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, brother. Can I hear a war cry? Nothing?
Dear Presley Bear, and I left my Marine campaign hat at home, so I apologize.
He called it a hat. He called it a hat. The Army guy called it a hat. There you go, folks. And on that
I wear all my hats backwards. That's for the Army guys. They fucking hate us for it, so...
And on that note, we cue the music.
Our flag on front to